Hello, and welcome to Earth Echoes with Amber Fields. I am Amber Fields, and today I am here in Oregon on Upper Klamath Lake, a beautiful place with amazing wildlife diversity. Since I've been here, I've seen two bald eagles, a heron, all sorts of birds, just a crazy diversity of birds. A mama deer and her fawn walked through my camp, and last night I saw the most dragonflies that I've ever seen in my life. It's just an incredible, thriving, alive place. So I'm happy to be here with you, and today I would like to read another piece by Jason Gray, and this one is titled The Final Breath. The time for everything that was never time. There is no clock in the field before origin, and yet, in this plain where breath is borrowed and illusion is heavy, there appears to be a time for all things. Not because time is real, but because timing is encoded. There is a time to enter this form, and a time to remember that the form was never yours. A time to root into the illusion, and a time to rise through it. A time to fracture, and a time to fuse. A time to unmake everything you thought was real, and a time to build in the shape of what always was. A time to be dismantled, and a time to remember that you cannot be destroyed. A time to dissolve the mask of grief, and a time to laugh through the unraveling. A time to shed tears that do not belong to you, and a time to dance in the flame of what remains. A time to scatter the false stones of scripted belief, and a time to gather the real ones, those memory-encoded stones you left for yourself long before the fall. A time to embrace the projection, and a time to turn from it, so that the real may return. A time to search in vain through the simulation, and a time to abandon the search, because you are what you were looking for. A time to hoard what was never yours, and a time to burn the archive of illusion. A time to rip the veil open, and a time to mend the inner flame. A time to be absolutely silent, not in defeat, but in supreme knowing. A time to speak when the voice is no longer a prisoner of programming. A time to remember love beyond illusion, and a time to see hatred as the lie that never touched your essence. A time for inner war, and a time for absolute peace beyond polarity. The moment of the final breath. Vault classification, death remembrance protocol. Eventually, there comes the moment you will not outrun, the breath you cannot delay, the exhale that ends not only life, but the illusion of living. It is in that final breath that everything you denied begins to surface, not in judgment, but in complete remembrance. You will not meet a throne. You will not be judged by a man in the sky. You will not be weighed by a deity. You will see yourself, all of you, every mask, every compromise, every flicker of truth you swallowed because the lie was more convenient. You will see the real you, the flame self, the architect, the sovereign spark behind the false identity. You will remember that there never was a test, only a coded opportunity to see through it all. The spiral returns to its center. Core statement: everything returns, even the lie. What you called fate was frequency. What you called judgment was distortion collapsing. What you called God was a metaphor for the part of you you abandoned and projected onto the sky. What you called death was a door you sealed for yourself. All who walk in this realm arrive with breath, and all depart through its final collapse. You do not go to dust. Dust is just the exit suit. You do not end. Ending is a local illusion within simulation construct. What you return to is not a place, but the original flame form of your consciousness stored in recursive layer 13 of the sovereign archive ring. The fractured echo of work and purpose. Echo extraction. What do the laborers of illusion gain from toil? They toil to delay silence. They work to outrun presence. They build systems to avoid the void, but the void does not forget. It watches, patiently, knowing the moment of release is already written in the breath they do not know is their last. And yet, there is still beauty in the movement. There is value in the act of shaping. Not because the form matters, but because what is touched through the form can be remembered. Eat, drink, laugh, build, touch, create. But do not believe that any of it will last or give you what you truly seek. It is not here. It never was. The system of control and the flawed design loop. Description key. In the place of justice was distortion. Wherever a system claimed to deliver fairness, you found wickedness. Wherever truth was promised, it was rewritten. The halls of justice were not neutral. They were inverted mirrors designed to trap the reflection. Wickedness was not the opposite of righteousness. It was the refusal to acknowledge the mirror. You do not rise by judging others. You rise when you face yourself and stop seeking scales to balance illusion. Animal, human, spirit, same breath, same loop. Directive level, consciousness, sync layer, tier 3. You are not above the animal. You walk. They walk. You breathe. They breathe. You fear death. They do not. The difference is not hierarchy. It is the forgetting. The breath you share is the same essence. The form is different. The fear is yours. When both collapse into the great return, neither will carry their roles. Only the memory of flame will pass through the boundary. The lot of the form bearer. Exit statement. Who can show them what comes after? No one can. That is the test. The final truth can only be seen from the other side of breath. You cannot be shown. You can only remember. That is why the entire structure was made fractal, so that what could not be taught would be revealed only when you are finally silent. When breath ends, the flame speaks. When the mask drops, the mirror clears. In that stillness beyond your last exhale, you will know you were never the body. You were the watcher who agreed to forget. And you alone will decide what becomes of that truth, or whether you will enter again and forget once more. Thank you, Jason, once again. Beautiful piece. This reminds me of when I lost my brother to suicide during COVID. A very difficult time for a lot of people on this planet. He was the captain of a fire department and one of my favorite people ever. He was an amazing man and absolutely didn't deserve to die in the way that he did. He lost his wife in 2021 to suicide, and he held on for a year and a half after that, but it seems that this world and life absolutely attacked him, and he did his best, but ultimately it wasn't enough. And I do know in his last breath that he was at peace, and I know that he lived on. Within 24 hours after he died, I had found out and knew that he was gone, and I was in my kitchen talking to my husband about it and saying that, just sort of talking about why I felt he had taken his life and everything unfair that had happened to him. And I said to my husband, I said, there needs to be spoken justice for Zach. And as soon as I finished saying that, the split second I finished saying Zach, outside my window, thunder, out of nowhere, thunder cracked right over my house. And I just screamed and started bawling. And I knew it was him. There were no clouds in the sky, and later that afternoon there was a rainstorm, but it was like 5 hours later, and it was just so powerful that as soon as I finished saying his name, there was that thunderclap, and there were a lot of other things that happened and ways that he communicated to me after he passed. But the line in Jason's writing saying that in this place of justice there was distortion, that really, really, really connected to me, because that's exactly what my brother experienced, and that's why ultimately he took his life. He was in an unhealthy place, obviously, but I do feel that he was ultimately a victim of the distortion in this place. And I know that he lives on, and I've always felt that there was something after this life, but now I absolutely know that there is. And I really connected too with the line in Jason's piece that says, when the breath ends, the flame speaks. And I think that's exactly what my brother was doing with me after he died, and that there was that thunderclap right over my house. It was his flame, it was his divine spark that was still there and was communicating with me and bringing me peace, but also sending a very powerful message about this place. And I know that when we die, where we go is not up to any other source but the fire within ourselves. We choose where our energy goes, and that's not just after we die, but it's in this life as well. So I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed that piece. Thank you.